Hello guys, today we're going to be talking about a lot of brand new Tom Ford quads. I'm super excited because he's released quite a few lately and I ended up picking up 4 of them to review and rank today. So I actually did quite a few uses with each of them. I did a lot of different looks, but today I'm going to show you guys where they rank. I'm getting a lot of questions about which ones are worth picking up and which ones aren't. So let's get started. The palette in dead last was the easiest choice I think I've ever made. If you guys remember the catastrophic disaster that was Soleil, you guys, this one isn't even that much better. For those wondering, this is Soleil from this past holiday. It was #1 Naked Pink. And this is one that was so terrible. Ugh, it was just one of the biggest disappointments from holiday palettes this past year, and I really hoped I would never see this formulation again. And even though this isn't quite the exact same formula, the color payoff and the way that these are picked up from the pan, translate on the eye, this is definitely last place. This is the Tom Ford Bitter Peach palette. The actual name of this is called BP01 Belle de Pêche, and this is actually a new release from Tom Ford. I was kind of expecting a heck of a lot better, I'll be honest. The potential is there, but this is one that had such bad color payoff, was really hard to pick these up as well. There's actually a really nice crosshatch embossment in each of these pans, but it makes the powder incredibly tight packed, and because of that, it's really hard to get them up when you're actually applying it to the eye. You can see this palette has, you would think, a decent amount of versatility, but it's interesting when I actually apply them to the lid, the finished look ends up being quite monochromatic. And for Tom Ford's price point, I really want a little bit more versatility among those 4 shades. Although a really beautiful embossment, one that absolutely hurt this palette in so many ways. It's definitely something I would certainly never recommend. The price point is incredibly too high for the quality. You can definitely get much better palettes for much better price points. This is one that is ranked dead last. Easiest decision I ever made, but also heartbreaking because I didn't want to have to see a terrible Tom Ford palette again. For the Naked Pink Soleil Neige palette, this is one that was so disappointing. I know a lot of us were kind of like, what the heck happened here? But he's been experimenting with some new formulas as of late, and his OG wet dry formula is like world renowned. It is so absolutely beautiful. I love the quad Honeymoon with the original formulation. This is Honeymoon. It is gorgeous, you guys. So if you ever want an OG formulation, wet dry formula from Tom Ford, the versatility is insane. I love this one, and it's the one I recommend every single time. So why did he change the formulation, you're wondering? I wonder the same question. So in palette #4, which I do think, save your coin, Bitter Peach by Tom Ford, I would avoid this one. Lack of pigment is definitely a problem. Fallout is minimal, which is a strength, but I think it's because you can barely translate anything on the lid that nothing falls. So there's a reason why there's no fallout. There's also no pigment impact either. Moving on to the bread and butter of this video, this is the new formulation from Tom Ford. So once again, we have something new going on. These are the Eye Color Creme quads, and I picked up all 3 of them. They are available at Sephora. I will link them in the description box as I go. You'll be able to reference that. But there are 3, and based on the promotional pictures, I was thinking I was purchasing the same palette 3 times over. I thought this was so similar. I was like, what is going on? A new line supposedly with 3 identical palettes with just some shades mixed up. There's a lot of versatility in these palettes, a lot more than you would think. So I'm really happy to announce that. As a rule of thumb with this formulation, prepping your eyes is key. We're talking about a cream formula, kind of like a creamy powder hybrid formulation from Tom Ford. Prepping your eyes is going to be absolutely necessary, especially if you have oily lids, because this formulation is going to go to battle with your oil on your lids. So for longevity purposes, prep your lid. I'm using the Smashbox 24-hour primer, one that worked really great, as did concealer. In 3rd place, we have #36 Tiger Eye. I'm going to show you as well in this video the difference between Tiger Eye as well as Bitter Peach, because I showed you one look with Bitter Peach and how it was kind of like just lacking, right? Lacking in character. All 4 of the shades are on my eye for that peach look, and it just looks like 2 shades, right? This is kind of like the palette that I wish the peach palette was. He could have saved a lot of time and just made this one like the peachy kind of vibe because it has like a red peachy sort of element in this shade up here. This does give me very tiger vibes, which is clearly by the name. It makes total sense. But this one is really beautiful because the versatility is there. So you can just do the top row, you can just do the bottom row. We have a really nice kind of purpley color to add some depth and shadowing if you want. So this is a really great one. The reason why it is in third is simply because the color story to me is totally fine, but the other two are a lot better. So we're going to be talking about that. But I do have a little bit of texture on this eye. There's just like a couple little, I don't know, like little congestion, you know, like sometimes our eyes do that. I did use that to my advantage when it came to testing this because I was like, is this going to emphasize any congestion or, you know, like they're like light little, almost look like pimples, but they're not quite pimples. Because of the metallic finish, there absolutely was a little bit of an emphasis. So that metallic finish is going to amplify texture, keep that in mind. But I do like this one. I do think this one has a really nice natural kind of flare. I like that you can create quite a few looks with this because the versatility is there. And the formulation of all three of these is really, really fantastic. I would say kind of like a medium opacity first off, definitely buildable, and the fallout only came from the deepest shade, but I think it's because I was using quite a dense brush to kind of pack that in the corner there. This palette overall, I think it has a lot of strengths, but I would say for color story wise, it was placed in 3 because the other 2 are a lot more attractive. Here we have the last 2. I've been getting so many questions about which one I prefer. It was very easy to pick number 3, which is Tiger Eye, because it's definitely a beautiful look, but these 2 are more everyday friendly to me. I'm actually wearing Smoky Quartz right now, which is fully matte. We'll talk about that. I also really love the Rose Topaz. So between these, I was like, which one should I pick? Because they're almost neck and neck, but they do have some differences. So palette number 2 is Rose Topaz. Rose Topaz gives me a little bit of nude dip vibes. If you have the OG nude dip, it's a very cool tone palette, lots of silvery, a little bit of purple kind of elements to it. This is one that has a similar vibe. We're not talking about duplicates, but we're talking about a very similar look. Is because this is also a cool tone palette. We do have a really beautiful shimmer in this quarter here that's kind of like, I would say like a bit of a beigey gray. It's really, really stunning, but this adds a different look overall compared to Smoky Topaz. This shade at the top here is that beautiful creamy formulation. It is nearly the shade of my lid, so I felt like applying this to start off the foundation of my look was actually perfect. Then I added some depth with this shade, which is one of those metallics. So similar to the Tiger Eye, I'll show you guys. There's kind of like a matte in this creamy formula, there's a metallic in this creamy formula, and then there's that shimmer as well. So we do have a matte here, and then I would say these 3 have a little bit of a metallicness to them in Tiger Eye. In Rose Topaz, we have this really gorgeous metallic up here. Then we have this shimmer, and we also have another matte down here with that creamy formulation. Metallic gives it a little bit of a spotlight effect. It's really, really beautiful. You kind of need that though for this palette because, especially if you have skin tone like myself, this is going to blend into your skin here, the top shade. As you can see right off the top, this palette and Tiger Eye don't even look that similar, right? So that was the thing I was wondering. I'm like, am I picking up the same palette a million times over? Because the promotional pictures did not do this justice, right? So these 2 you can see are very, very different. There's a little bit of some similarities with the deepest shade in each, but you can tell that one of them is more cool toned and one of them is warmer. The other thing I think that's kind of weird is the name Rose Topaz for this. I don't understand it because I was more so expecting like the top shade has some rose or pinky elements, but it's more so beigey. It's not rose to me, but I don't know. That's just maybe something for your interpretation. If you have an idea why he would call this palette this, let me know because maybe something is shouting at me and I'm not seeing it. But you can see this has a really beautiful look overall as well. The fallout, same thing. We're talking about a teeny bit with that deepest shade, but I'm using a dense brush on purpose here to make sure I have that pigment impact. When it comes to this creamy formulation, the best brushes to use are synthetic, in my opinion. I do think the Sonia G's did really well though, so that is a natural haired, I believe undyed brush type, so that's also to kind of keep in mind. But synthetics do a heck of a good job with this. They just really pick it up and are able to apply it really effortlessly on the lid. The palette in first is Smoky Quartz. Guys, does this not look like such a beautiful everyday palette? This is definitely a smoky, deeper look overall. You can see I'm wearing this right now on my lid. It is so pretty. Gorgeous. I think I'm wearing all of these shades actually. Yep, I'm definitely wearing all of these shades. All 4 of these are matte. So remember the differences between all 3 palettes, right? We have Tiger Eye, which is 3 metallics and a matte. So that's how this one is dressed up. We have palette number 2, which was Rose Topaz. This is one that has 2 mattes, a metallic and a shimmer, which is definitely different. Then we have Smoky Quartz, which is fully matte, all 4 of them. The creaminess of the consistency of this makes it just look absolutely stunning on the lid. So you can see here it's smoky, and that's like this name of this palette makes sense. We're not talking about an everyday friendly palette that is more on the lighter side. We're talking about everyday mattes that have quite a bit of depth. All of them work together really well. I love the versatility with these. I do think there was a teeny bit of a missed opportunity between these 2. The only reason I say that is because those 2 are similar when swatched. Not perfect, but they do have similar vibes. So when you apply them on the lid, there's not a ton of versatility between them. I do think that he could have made one of them a little deeper, but that's me being absolutely nitpicky. And there's kind of another reason as well why this one is my favorite. I recently tried out the Charlotte Tilbury matte eyeshadows in her Eyes to Mesmerize formulation. So she recently came out with potted shadows that were absolutely terrible. Probably the worst launch of the year so far. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be the worst launch overall for me because it was such a disaster. So this gives me like redemption. Like if you wanted a matte, creamy kind of look that sets down on the lid, this is it. Like Smoky Quartz. I was like, a lot of these shades are similar to that line. They're not duplicates, but similar to that line. We have that matte look that is so beautiful and easy to apply. It's that creaminess that just sets down gorgeously. That was kind of the expectation I had with those shadows from Charlotte Tilbury. So the fact that this one came in and is just like, this serves my needs perfectly, that's why also I was like, this is so impressive. And I'm so glad because that other one was such a failure. You can even see side by side here. So now I have Rose Topaz and I have Smoky Quartz on each eye. And look how different those looks are. They're absolutely different. You can tell. So when it comes to the promotional pictures, why on earth does it look like you're buying the same palette over and over? I mean, you're definitely not. When it comes to the looks you can create, there is some versatility there. With all 3 of these palettes, priming the lid is absolutely necessary though, especially if you have oily lids. I'll say that one more time. But all of these have really great quality. I mean, minus this one. I mean, this one is almost like a clear dead last and the other 3 are right neck and neck close to the top. I really hope this video was helpful for you. Don't forget to subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.